All right, now we're talking about yield management, and we're talking about getting rid of discounts when you expect demand to be high enough to be able to get rid of them, so that you're moving more of your sales closer to your top rate, which is also known as your rack rate. Come with me over here. Over here, I've got pictures of buckets drawn. Now remember, rack rate is the highest published rate that you have. Every hotel has got to publish its rates. So this is the highest published rate. And all of your discounts, all of your different programs like your AAA, AARP, all those things, there's some percentage off of that. But there's so many of them that we want to keep track of them by keeping them in buckets. Right? So in bucket 1, these are for discounts that are 5% to 10%. Bucket 2 are discounts of 11% to 15%. Bucket 3 is 16% to 25%. Apparently this hotel does not have any discounts higher than 25%. All right, let's go over here. We said it, now here's what I want you to do. If you want to follow along with me and do this, make this chart. Here it says rack, bucket 1, bucket 2, and bucket 3. Up here it says willing, it stands for willing to sell. And over here, predicted, that's predicted demand for that rate category. Let's say that this hotel has 500 rooms. All right, how many rooms are we willing to sell on that day? Let's say this day is 2 months from today. Today is November 5th. Let's say this is for January 5th. And we're predicting how many rooms we're going to sell. How many rooms are we willing to sell at the rack rate? Ladies, how many rooms are we willing to sell at the rack rate, our highest rate? 500. We're willing to sell all 500 of them, so we're going to put 500 here. It's 500 rooms available. We're willing to sell all 500. But we're predicting that only 100 people are going to demand rooms at that rate. Now, that means we're willing to sell all 500, but we're predicting we're only going to sell 100 at that rack rate. So then, how many are we willing to sell at our first level of discounts, which is bucket 1? 400 rooms we're willing to sell that way. Now, we're predicting, let's say, that 200 people are going to call, let's say with a AAA discount or whatever happens to be in that bucket, well, we'll rent them a room if we have one open, because we're willing to sell 400 rooms at that. We're only predicting we're going to have 200 people do that. Now, if more than 200 call, we'll sell to that 400. Now, let's say bucket 3, how many rooms are we willing to sell in bucket 3? Well, we were willing to sell 400, bucket 2. We were willing to sell 400 at bucket 1. We're expecting that 200 people will demand those rooms, so we're willing to sell 200 rooms, 400 minus 200, at, this is bucket 2 levels. But we're predicting that we're going to have 350 people who want a room at bucket 2 levels. Guess what? We're not going to be able to accommodate all those people. We're only willing to sell 200 rooms at that. Now, if we now have a situation where our demand is exceeding the amount of rooms we have left, so we're not willing to sell any rooms at bucket 3, and it really doesn't matter. Let's say that we expect 200 people to be demanding rooms at bucket 3. So what happens is we don't know when somebody from bucket 2 is going to call. Bucket 2 is 11% to 15% discount. They may call up, they may be the first one to call up. In other words, we may not have sold any rooms yet. They call up and want to make a room reservation. Yes, we'll accept that room reservation. But suppose somebody from bucket 3, which is a 16% to 25% discount, calls up. And even though we may not have rented a single room yet for January 5th, we're not going to accept that reservation request. We may try to sell them up, but we're not going to take a room reservation for a room at a 16 to 25% discount. Why? We don't believe we have to.